Hello, my name is Jesse Kreitzer for NewTV. I'm the Government Access Coordinator, and we are celebrating tonight the Talking Heads Portraiture exhibit. We are a gallery space exhibiting a lot of portraiture from still photography, pastels, oils, acrylics, all different portraiture from different artists in Newton. And I'm here tonight with Irwin E. Thompson. He just published Memories and Milestones. It's a collection of poems and paintings as well. So I'd like to welcome you, Irwin.
Thank you, Jesse.
And you were going to be sharing some of your poetry, some of your paintings tonight. So why don't we get right into it? I'd like you to just kind of discuss the correlation between some of your paintings to your poetry.
Sure. Well, the thing that's that is unique about this particular book is that each topic has a poem and a painting. And so there's not a relationship where I started with a poem and then did a painting. One grew out of the other on a particular topic where I either did a poem first or I did a painting first. And then as I was doing it, I had the idea, okay, I want to write a poem about this simultaneously, or vice versa, I want to do a painting about this simultaneously. So this book took several years to produce because I found that the painting and the text were very different, coming from different parts of my brain, and the difficulty was the correlation between one and the other, and to make it both visually appealing and textually impactful.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying there isn't much of a correlation, say, between the poetry and your paintings as much as they're two separate entities, but in this book they kind of come together. Exactly,
and that's the additional artistic impact, is that you have to create how one relates to the other.
Certainly.
It doesn't just happen, you have to make the creation. So you create the poem, you create the painting, and you create, shall we say, the union.
Okay.
And that's the challenge.
Well, I would suggest, why don't we get into one of your poems, and
sure.
I can also display the painting. And to the viewers, you can start to try to correlate a connection between the poem and the painting, despite there not being an original intention of doing so.
Right. Well, let me just say, first of all, that one of the things about the book that's really wonderful is the quality of the images is really wonderful. I went to a lot of effort to have a top-class photographer do the photography, and then I had to continue that effort all the way through the printing process. So the plates are just exceptionally high quality, and I'm totally thrilled with how the plates came out.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to get in the first poem. Is it Penombre?
So yes, if I started off reading a poem which is Penombre, and it goes like this. Shadows on the wall, moving blindly. Perhaps this is how we appear, one to the other, poised on the surface of preoccupation, darkly adjacent, not truly real, never to be touched.
What inspired you to, put this painting next to the Penombre poem, which you just recited?
Well, you actually made a very interesting point there, that since the two are related, the next thing that happens to the person who's either looking at the poem or the painting, they start to try to make the visual correlation between the two. Mm-hmm. And that is part of the enjoyment of this book and the challenge, because it is sort of a difficult book in terms of the intellectual challenge of the poetry and the creative challenge to the painting. Mm-hmm. So it's like a fun thing to do, and at the end of it all, everybody who's had a look at this has been really quite fascinated by the process, which they've put themselves through, as I've discussed with them, how to try and make the relationships, basically.
Mm-hmm. I suggest, why don't we get into another poem, and the audience can also view the painting that goes along with it.
Correspondence. And that is a poem which makes it clear that the title, the correspondence, is related to the fact that my mother and I corresponded for 60 plus years. I'm an immigrant from Scotland, and I left when I was a young man, and she is an old lady at this point, 99 years of age. So after I left Scotland, I did go back over the years, but I maintained a steady correspondence with her over 60 plus years, and I don't think that happens to too many people. So I kept all of her letters, and she kept all of mine. So when this particular event, which was a stroke, happened, I happened to be there for her in Scotland for her 95th birthday, and unbelievably, she had a stroke right in front of my eyes in the morning that I arrived. So I had to do a lot of stuff, medical stuff, rush her to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. And then I just started taking care of her, some of her affairs. And so then I found all these boxes with correspondence that I had sent to her 50 years ago. So as you can imagine, that was an intensely moving experience. And so I started to write this poem.
Yes.
And then when I came back to the States and I was writing through the poem, I realized I have to make a painting here where I would include some collage material from previous correspondence from her to me. So all of that is contained in this poem and this painting.
So this is one instance where not only were you inspired by a particular event, a personal event in your life, but the event not only inspired a poem, but the painting as well.
Correct.
Great.
That's right.
Okay, fascinating story. We're going to get into it. It's called Correspondence by Irwin E. Thompson from Memories and Milestones.
Correspondence. The simple beauty of her hand, the grace of her lilting lines belie her words. The Scots don't speak lightly of love. Stroke spreads through her, eyes vacant, mouth disabled, left arm relict, words useless. My mother, my correspondent for 60 years, lies paralyzed, aged, fallen under the wheels.
Thank you.
I have a sort of a philosophical bent to my character, and I like to bring in these sorts of issues that kind of way.
Right, and it also seems like not only are you writing about personal experiences, but you're also wrestling with much grander issues, from philosophy to nature and science.
Well, I think that's very true, Jesse. And the book is packed with, as I said, different kinds of subjects of that nature. Issues of global warming, which in the poem I call global warning, and rainforest problems and barrier reef issues and all kinds of stuff like that.
Well, I thank you, Irwin. You can actually just recently published, correct?
Yes.
Memories and Milestones, and you also said you have a one-man exhibit at the Newton Art Center?
Yeah, yes, which is called the New Art Center, but it's in Newtonville, yeah. It's up right now, as a matter of fact, as we speak.
Great.
It's a great show, if I may say so.
Yeah, poems without words.
Yeah, poems without words.
Well, thank you, Irwin. A certainly multifaceted
Pleasure.
character, and you will find a great range of, from paintings and poems. Irwin E. Thompson does not limit himself, so I thank you for coming.
Thank you, it was my pleasure.
It's very passionate.
Very nice to meet you.
Likewise.